The following program is brought to you in part by Northern States Power Company.
One-third of people, of adults in this country, are single. That's unbelievable, and it's growing practically exponentially. You find that the whole singles phenomenon has permeated almost every aspect of American life.
It's an interesting matchup. Juan Andujar, who was hit by that line drive on the knee in Game 3, pitched a beautiful game, but we'll have to see if his knee is 100%.
Today there are 20 million households in the country consisting of a single individual living alone. They represent 1 of every 4 households. Enormous increase in this type of household over the last decade.
And what type of relationship are you looking for?
A steady relationship.
Okay.
One person.
Well, what kind of qualities do you prefer in a man then?
Honesty and warmth.
Mm-hmm.
And communication is a real important thing.
Would you consider yourself shy or outgoing?
Well, I guess I'm shy in the beginning.
Cardinal around a roll after the delay with a 2-run shot over the barrier in right center. The Cardinals with a 13-1 win.
The significance, I would say, is that we're really living through a social revolution.
By getting married and starting a family all at once, you begin to think you've missed something, an interval perhaps in your life where you felt like you could be totally free from any kind of responsibilities. But I think in the interim, people are finding that this pleasurable period runs a little thin.
Good evening. Tonight, we glimpse a change in American life. A change, we're told, may represent a revolution in the way we're living. Certainly, it represents a significant departure from what we've come to think of as the very basis of American life, the traditional nuclear family. Over the last decade, the number of single Americans has grown at an astounding rate. So much so that the model of home life is mom in the kitchen, father at work, the kids and family dog playing in the backyard, appears to be a matter of history. Recently released census data show that approximately 40%, 4 out of 10 American households, are households now headed by unmarried adults. Last summer, we asked ourselves what accounts for this change. Where will it lead? Who are these new Americans? What we present to you tonight is our exploration, some of our journey through the world of singles, and those who have taken note of their numbers. And as we do, we'll occasionally focus on the life of one single woman, a woman who may be representative of the fastest growing segment of the single population. Her name is Chris. She is 33 years old, a product of the baby boom generation, a career woman, and she has never married. Who are these single Americans? There are few simple answers, but given their numbers alone, one might say, in a sense, they are us, and they are single. The changes we've seen in the last decade of American life have been many, but perhaps none run so deep, so close to the reality of our daily existence as the changes in the conduct of our personal lives, changes in the nature of our personal relationships. Throughout our history, we have been essentially a nation of families. But beginning in the late 1960s and throughout the 1970s, a change began. Now, between 50 and 60 million Americans are single. It is a minority so large that it has begun to have a striking effect on the makeup of American life. And so great is their number that today 1 in every 4 households in the nation involves an unmarried adult living alone.
I don't think I have made a conscious decision to be single or to remain single. And it's not that you make a choice for a big thing, like deciding to live alone, but you make a lot of smaller choices that lead you there. Nice to be able to come home from work, and I'd be glad to have someone here. I guess there are two sides. Yeah, it'd be nice if I could come home and there'd be chili on the stove. But the other side of that is if I came home and there was someone expecting me to have chili on the stove. I'm conscious of it being real nice to be able to come in and sit down and have a drink and not have to do something for someone. And I don't know if there's a particular time, like Sunday mornings or something like that, that I really want somebody around.
Heavy rain held things up for a while, but Keith Hernandez kept the Cardinal.
I've lived alone, certainly for the last 3.5 years or so. For the first year, I really liked not having anybody around. Then there was a period of time of sitting and doing things like watching television and thinking, this is what I wanted out of being alone. It ain't what I was after.
Today, there are 20 million households in this country that consist of a person living entirely alone. There's been an enormous increase in this type of household. In fact, this type of household has accounted for more than 50% of the household growth in the country in the last 10 years.
Now, those single people might be never married or formally married, that is, widowed or divorced. But this is very dramatic, so we can no longer assume that American consumers consist of full family groups.
The most dramatic single component of this increase has been among the young adult population. That population consisting largely of the baby boom that has refrained from marrying and has gone out and lived in an independent fashion.
When you take all of those together, you take that, for convenience, let's call them singles, that represents 39% of all households in our country. 39%.
The number of single Americans is indeed big. So big that myriad organizations catering to the needs of singles have sprung up across the land. And here at this church in suburban Minneapolis, one of the largest singles organizations in the nation holds its weekly meetings.
Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to the regular Thursday night meeting of Singles All Together. My name is Art Galbraith, and I will be your host for this evening. SAT, or Singles All Together as we call it, is a singles group that was started about 7 years ago in the spring of 1975 by a couple of very enterprising people. And since that time, when it was about a dozen people, it's grown to its current membership of about 1,700 people. So we have really expanded tremendously. The accent here, of course, is on friendship and acquaintances. And I think Singles All Together fulfills a very central need in people that are single to get together in a place, a world of their own that, you know, is primarily for singles, We're meeting on neutral ground. We're meeting in a place where maybe you can trust people more, where the accent is more on friendships rather than being picked up or being hustled. When you join SAT, or if you're thinking of joining SAT, we have a party once a month dedicated just to you. It's a lot easier. We're social creatures. No matter if you're single or not, most people, I think, are looking for relationships. And I don't think that will ever change. I think that's built into our nature. We're all social people.
The greatest concentration of single Americans is, of course, in the nation's urban areas. It's here, then, in our cities, that something one might call a new American industry has begun to emerge. Singles have created a marketplace large enough that singles themselves are now seen as a profitable subject for television programmers. Here at a New York disco, Manhattan Cable Television is taping a segment for a new weekly television program aimed directly at the city's single population. For the camera. Later, their telephone numbers will be flashed before viewers of the final program. They are making, in essence, video classifieds. Objective, meeting members of the opposite sex.
Watch United Singles, the new showcase for the most active and exciting people.
Meeting people, searching for a relationship. It's a theme, it's a thread of continuity we have found throughout single life. It would be easy to assume that single life involves little more than a stereotype. Young, carefree people who have opted to stay single, avoiding marriage and personal commitments. It's true of some, of course, but we found that most single people are actively looking for significant relationships, often committed relationships. As one of the single people we talked with put it, we're all concerned with our personal relationships. Married people are constantly concerned with the quality of their marriages. Single people are equally concerned with finding the right relationship. We'll see more of the ways singles are searching for each other, and we'll look at why the number of singles has grown so much when we continue.
And then what do you usually do, like, after work? What's like a typical day after work?
Well, since I don't know that many people in the Twin Cities yet, after work I haven't really been doing that much.
Mm-hmm.
But,
do you have any interests or hobbies?
Well, I like astrology and reading animals.
Oh, astrology, so that's like horoscopes and stuff?
Right.
Do you know a lot about it?
Yeah.
What sign are you?
Sagittarius.
And what type of relationship are you looking for?
A steady relationship.
Okay.
One person.
So I would come in and, like, look at some tapes, and from those tapes, they would really give me enough information to get an idea if I wanted to go out with that person?
That's correct. That's correct. Now, that person would be contacted if you wish to meet him.
Uh-huh.
He would come in and he would look at your tape picture and profile, and he would say yes or no. If he says yes, then he'll get only your telephone number. If he says no, there's no harm done. You never have to meet him face to face.
What would you think would be an ideal first date situation?
Well,
for you?
I guess somewhere fairly quiet where we could get to know each other a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Maybe a restaurant or something like that.
Okay. Well, what kind of qualities do you prefer in a man then?
Honesty and warmth.
Mm-hmm.
And communication's a real important thing.
Okay.
Has anyone ever gotten married out of your club?
Yes, we've had 10 weddings now.
10?
10.
How long have you been operating?
A little over 2 years.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
In recent years, we've witnessed a burgeoning of the ways in which we can hope to meet someone new, perhaps someone special. But this new industry could not survive, let alone flourish, without a demand. How have we reached this point? What explains the tremendous growth in our unmarried population?
Well, I think you have to understand it in the context of the changes in society in the last couple of decades. Basically, and in brief, we've gone from a set of traditional values to a set of new values.
Arthur Shapiro is Executive Vice President of Yankelovich, Skelly & White, a leading social and market research consulting firm.
To a large extent, the post-World War II period and the psychology of affluence and the changes in the way children were raised during this period, and particularly the economic optimism, long-term economic optimism, said that no matter what I do, eventually I'll find the right path. And I think that was part of it. I don't have to be uniform. I have choices. I have options. I have alternatives. I have a great big wide world out there, and I owe it to myself, was the sense, to maximize, to participate in those kinds of options. And if it means delaying a commitment, it means delaying getting closer to someone else while I, quote, find myself, well, that's what it's all about.
One of the problems which freedom presents to us is too many options.
Working with co-author Jacqueline Seminauer, David Carroll researched and wrote Singles, the New Americans, a study of the attitudes of single Americans. It surveyed 3,000 singles in 36 states, 57 major cities, and 275 metropolitan areas.
We live in a time in which we kind of sit back and we at least have the sense that we can pretty much choose the person we want to get involved with. We can choose where we want to meet them. We can choose what they look like. We can choose when we want to meet them. We don't have to meet them if we don't want to. We can wait. We feel pretty much in control of this. And one of the problems that this breeds is we begin to start looking for a kind of a divine figure, a kind of impossible fantasy image of what a person should be like.
So what then really would attract you to a lady initially, and then what would keep you wanting to be with her?
Most important thing would be a big heart.
Perhaps his eyes.
She'd have to be intelligent. I don't mean necessarily in terms of book learning, but more the kind of native intelligence that has a curiosity about things.
We're all chasing these kind of images, and we feel that, well, I'll go out and I'll go out and I'll go out. Well, if I don't meet so-and-so, well, so-and-so has 10 of the 15 prerequisites I want, but I know I can find the person with the 15 because they're out there somewhere, and it's just not realistic. But many people are chasing their tails in that syndrome.
I met Greg last spring, and we met at a time when we were both very much interested and ready for some company and some affection. And the initial interest was no more or less, really, than someone I could like and enjoy doing things with.
One night last spring, we found ourselves on the same softball team. I got to talking to Chris, and I liked what I heard, and she seemed to be a very down-to-earth, honest person who didn't have a lot of superficiality about her. She seemed to be very sincere and upfront about things.
I can sort of only look straight ahead.
Almost stopped there at one point.
Yes. Let's not talk about it, huh? I mean, I like the ride, and I like looking straight ahead.
I like having him in my life. I feel very good about the relationship in terms of what it does for me on a daily basis or a day-to-day basis. And I feel very positive about it continuing. But I don't have any strong notions about trying to turn it into something permanent.
One of the hardest things for me to do is to try to make some kind of a commitment on where I stand with her.
They rig these things so you can't
get whatever you pick
can't
up.
get anything on it.
I think that most of the commitment in our relationship is on Chris's part. She has really gone out of her way to try to be a good friend to me and try to understand me, try to take care of me.
I was only an inch away.
I just don't think about her a lot of the time, and I think she wishes I did. I think she wishes that I had feelings about her that right now, as of this point, at this point I don't. They just aren't there, and she has put so much into this relationship, she's been so nice to me, that I feel like I either have to get into it or she has to get out of it a little bit.
Greg and I are real different, and it may be that there are just too many differences. I see a possibility that it will fail. I'm real willing to ride with it for a while. And I sense that he is too. I sense that there's no hurry.
I think there has been a period of alienation, a period of questioning, where we've broken down old patterns. For instance, it was customary in my mother's day to be married very young, and right out of high school you got married. And if you didn't, you were already considered an old maid by the time you were 20. I think people have reevaluated that because by getting married and starting a family all at once, you begin to think you've missed something.
You can say the decline of religion, you can say the rising divorce rate, you can say the lack of an extended family in this country, the mobility of Americans. I think 1 out of 5 Americans in this country are constantly on the move. There are a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest reason is that women are staying in the labor force longer and marrying later.
Many people become single not because their marriage is so terrible, but because they want to go out into the dating marketplace again and experience what they feel they were deprived of when they were younger.
Our relationship began with a strong emotional content, and without that being part of it or being present, there isn't a lot of other things that have developed over that period of time.
I don't know exactly why, but every time that we get together, I feel alienated. I can't relate to a lot of the things that she talks about. I can't relate to a lot of things that she talks about with her friends. And it's kind of like I'm under her umbrella.
Greg and I don't read the same books, think about a lot of things in the same way, live the same kinds of lives.
Those differences are starting to become a source of misunderstanding between us. Chris has such a broad range of interests, and she has such a different outlook on life from me, and it seems that a lot of things that I do irritate her, and I've asked her if I'm such a source of irritation, why do you want to hang around with me?
But that emotional connection was important. It's been a long time since someone has been attractive enough to me for me to want that kind of, I think I always want it, but for it to be possible to enjoy the kind of emotional attachment I felt for him.
And for now, I just want to work on being friends with her, and maybe if I can feel like I have a stronger common tie with her, maybe we can resume a closer relationship.
We're not the right people for each other. You know, there's a sense of failure in relationships that begin and end. Maybe it's no more than the fact that Greg and I never did really fall madly and passionately in love. We had a nice summer. It would have been nice to have had more than that. even just longer than that. And I think that was a lot of my resentment at it ending. I just didn't want it to end yet. I want a relationship to continue as long as it feels like it's good for me. When it no longer feels like it's good for me, I tend to be done with it.
I'd say my job is the single most important thing in my life right now. It hasn't always been true, and it might not always be true.
All right, I'll have somebody call you back no matter what. Would you tell him that the meeting on the 8th is canceled? And if you haven't heard by 2 o'clock, call here and bug him. And I'll get back to him next week with rescheduled details. Yeah.
I like the satisfaction I get out of my job. It'd be hard to give that up.
Get back about
And I'm realistic enough to know that I couldn't have that job part-time or say, I'll do this, but I won't travel.
As a whole, I'd go with that one, but if you think...
I get a lot of strokes and satisfaction from my job
That's not much
that
on there, too.
I think otherwise I might be looking for a man to give me.
I don't know that you can put any more blue in there. Why don't you try that red down first?
And working is pretty important to me, and yet I can't imagine working and trying to raise a family.
We just put red up in there. We took red down here and put some up there. Look at your old sheet for a second, though.
If someone has always been married and only has the press and literature and their own fantasies around to imagine what a single life is like, I think they see it as being either isolated and lonely or gay and carefree and swinging singlesy, neither of which are very close to the reality as I see it.
To be single is to be aggrandized, envied, pitied, observed, commented upon, analyzed, studied, emulated, and exaggerated. Indeed, exaggeration is the word which best expresses the single man, the single woman, the single American.
For all their numbers, single Americans are often misunderstood, not least of all by singles themselves. This group in Minneapolis has invited a popular radio journalist and talk show host to comment on and provoke them to think about society's image of singles.
And not married. Why do you think that the media distorts you?
Well, I've seen a lot of things. Every time that I see them talking, they try to make singles as though they were something unusual, something odd.
How many of you are single again? Hands up. Now, I want you to be totally honest. How many of you are happy?
One of the questions in our survey that we asked was, how is singles life for you? How is the reality of singles life compared with the version of singles life that's presented to you via the media? One woman in one of the essays said, well, she said, you want to know what singles life is? She said, it's driving along in an old broken down car, worrying about how you're going to pay your rent because you don't have anyone sharing it with you, trying to get a raise in a job and being discriminated against because you're a single person.
And what Madison Avenue started to portray in a lot of the advertising was an image of single life that really isn't.
Break free and feel. Feel how splendid you are.
Now, if you're single, and this is the image before you, you're going to feel very down and depressed that you're not living this single life. So I think that's an important thing, is that there is no image of today's single. She's not swinging, he's not swinging. It's a lifestyle that has problems like any other lifestyle.
Either you're going to be single the rest of your lives, you're going to be married tomorrow, and you're going to be married the rest of your life. How many of you would say that you prefer to be married? Well, you can't be very happy being single then.
Single life is clearly not without its particular problems. They're often routine, but occasionally they are intensely personal, even painful problems. Support groups designed to help are not uncommon, and at Singles Altogether, one is called Sharing and Caring.
I've been single for 5 years, and it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. There are certain things about being alone that I've really grown to like. But then there are things about it that I don't like. I don't like the loneliness. I don't like, you know, having to go out to look for people to be with. But on the other hand, being in a relationship, I'm realizing, also has negative aspects. So I sometimes wonder if I'll ever be able to make a commitment to another person, you know, to really be comfortable in a relationship. Sometimes I think I'm getting kind of selfish.
You know, one thing that has occurred to me in the last year and a half since I've been divorced is one of the issues I have to work through is why I need a relationship, and kind of get that defined in my own mind before I get into another one. I mean, it's terrible to say, but I realized after I was divorced that one of the main reasons I needed a husband was to clean the basement and garage.
Honesty, right?
That is important, I've done.
I think a lot of people, though, in this room and singles in general, they find out how strong they are after the separation or divorce, or apart from whatever the relationship was. And that's how we do find out where our strengths are, is when we don't have someone else to rely on. When I've been separated over 3 years and such, and I had 2 people tell me I would not be able to raise 2 girls by myself. And I think I've done a better than adequate job. So I have neighbors say, well, you're going to run into so many problems, you're not going to believe it. I had someone tell me to put them up for adoption, and I could not believe it. Yeah. So, well, it's incredible, but you know, you don't have to be a Philadelphia lawyer to raise 2 kids, and you don't have to be a Philadelphia lawyer in order to maybe fix a car. So I'm just saying you kind of learn your strengths after a, a period of time. So.
Oh, yeah? Okay. 1, 2, 3, go.
1, 2, 3, go.
Oh, good shot.
Oh, shoot. Daddy's catching a fire.
Boy.
I probably tend to spoil them a little bit, and maybe that goes along with trying to be father and mother to kids.
We'll just make sure we get it going. Angie, don't put too much in there, honey. Okay, go ahead.
The kids are real bubbly and that at the end of a week, and they're always real anxious to help, and I give them the menial tasks that they don't realize are menial tasks, but to them I guess it's a big deal.
Michelle, will you get off the counter, please? Go ahead. My daughter is just being a little rambunctious here.
I guess just accepting the fact that you don't have someone else of significance to share things with. As I say, either the good or the bad of that particular day. And it just kind of tends to make the highs not as high and the lows lower because there isn't someone right there to share them with you. I guess you go through a stage of yearning for the old relationship and such, but once you've determined that the old relationship isn't going to be there, and I have determined that, and I think we both have, that you just try to go forward from there and make the best of everything that you can.
My chief aim was to survive the first 2.5 years that I was alone, until my husband filed for divorce. And then after that, it was baby steps. The lonesomeness was devastating, and I think you do a lot of things. My stereo helped me. I don't know about anybody else, but my stereo seemed to soothe me.
There's a big difference in being alone because you want the time by yourself, and you want to sit and think or do something on your own. And when it's a case of you're by yourself and there isn't anyone else in the house, then it's loneliness. It's not just being alone.
The evenings are more of a factor for my situation. I can get the kids to bed at 8:30 or 9, and beyond that, when you're not used to being by yourself when you're in a relationship, and I guess that culture shock was more of a factor than mornings because kind of a hubbub and you're eating, getting ready, and going to work. But I notice it more at night. I don't know if anyone else gets the same feeling.
I don't like getting up in the morning alone. I discover I like to wake up with someone next to me. And at the moment, that's my 15-year-old daughter who gets in next to me. I don't know what I'll do when she moves out.
I guess the image that I think is kind of given off is that all single people are ecstatic all the time and just always having a good time. They're never home by themselves on a Friday or Saturday night, and they, if it's a man or a woman, they have 15 dates to choose from and this type of thing, and I don't think that is a very accurate image. So he huffed and he puffed and he blew the house in. Oh man, he wasn't very nice, was he? The second anyone who has cared real deeply about somebody at one time, and then that person has left for whatever reason, divorce, separation, widow, and such, I guess it's, you just feel like that will never ever be replaced. And that was the end of the big bad wolf.
Oh, you want to make a deposit? You bet, $30. Yeah, it's our McCulloch rebate money. McCulloch?
Once the kids are to bed at 8:30 or 9, I guess I'm probably just the type of person where I prefer a significant relationship, and I guess once anyone who's been in one at one time and they really miss that situation, I guess it just brings back feelings of loneliness, and I guess I still miss the holding or just the companionship at night.
Anyone ever tell you you have great teeth? Thinks she likes you, Barney.
Everybody's looking, and there's nothing wrong with that, you know. That's just the way we are, and there is no built-in way for us to do that.
Suzanne Douglas is publisher of Intro magazine. Started just 2 years ago, it is now distributed nationwide, and its target readership is the country's single population. It is the first national magazine directed specifically to unmarried Americans.
We have left the proverbial Moonbeam, Nebraska, which is my euphemism for every small town in the entire world, and moved into a major metropolitan area like a Minneapolis or Chicago or whatnot for career reasons, and we don't know anybody. And our community, I mean, let's face it, Chicago is not a small town, community type of town. You don't know the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker the way you did back in Moonbeam or wherever you were from. And there is no social avenue through which you can meet prospective companions who would be okay in the sense of what you might have in common with them.
Singles have said the biggest problem is loneliness. Now, they're lonely because they can't meet. Okay, so why can't they meet? Well, with all the things that are going on in this country, it should be easy, but it's a problem.
There's a lot of shyness. There's a tremendous amount of shyness in all of us, I suppose, and some people in particular.
Now, this is the rules of how we're going to operate. What I'm going to do is I am going to talk for a little while to give you some of the principles. First, I am going to discuss why is it people don't meet people. Most people are waiting for luck to strike. Well, if I get lucky, I'll meet somebody if I go to a singles event or if I go to Bloomingdale's. I don't believe in luck. By the way, you have to have dates before anything else happens, whatever it is, right? First, you need dates before you have relationships. So you've got to concentrate on finding good prospects and getting more dates. Do you want to ask a question, sir? Right over here.
From my point of view, I like it if a girl approaches me. In fact, one time I was sort of shy about a certain girl, and she approached me and said she liked me. I never would have gone out with her if she didn't, and we gone out for years off and on.
It's really nice for a woman to show a positive interest in a spontaneous manner rather than have you having to work for it all the time.
Did every woman hear this? Because I agree with him 100%. You see, in our society, we don't learn social skills. We get them from our parents and our neighbors, but we don't formally learn them, and many people really don't know what to do. They don't know what the rules are for meeting and dating and relating. Many people don't learn the right rules.
Loneliness is, as one woman described it, like having cancer. It's far and away, survey-wise, for everyone we've talked to, everyone we've surveyed, everyone we've gone, had anything to do with on a subject, has almost invariably put loneliness as the #1 problem of being single. Now, there are variations on loneliness. People don't always say, oh, it's terrible being single because I'm so lonely. They'll say it's terrible being single because I find that I feel cut off from other people.
Without question, everybody has said this is the biggest problem they face.
It's the reason that people are often find themselves out night after night. We found that 40% of people meet A, through bars, and B, through singles organizations. Today, again, because of the pressures that you have in urban areas for people to meet and the lack of the avenues of meeting, these quasi-acceptable vehicles have become quite acceptable.
And I see them come in on Friday night, meet someone, and then come back Sunday night and get their cars and go different directions. I've also, I've seen a lot of couples. I've seen about 4 or 5 couples marry out of here, meet here and marry. Got what I got the hard way.
The problems with the bars are the problems that you might imagine people would have. People use words like meat market. Everybody kind of knows why you're there. You're there because you want to meet somebody of the opposite sex. Everybody is on the spot. Everybody is being auditioned. Everybody's being looked at.
Are you a shy person?
In most instances, yes. Very shy.
I'm too shy to go up, really, and even ask a gal if I can buy her a drink. Something on this order, it gets me very nervous, and I get tongue-tied. Normally, I'm not tongue-tied, but if I have to go up and start a conversation with somebody, I do. So it's very difficult for me in this situation to try and meet somebody.
So you have to have a very strong ego structure, or at least a buttressed ego structure, to continually go to a singles bar. If you are going to go to a singles bar, you have to be aware that you will meet somebody. They do work, but you're going to have to be prepared for rejection.
Because singles are so lonely, they've become sort of innovative or creative. They realize that if they want to meet, a lot of them, that no one is going to, you know, bang on their doors and say, hey, here I am. So a lot of singles have told us that they've done some kind of creative meeting processes or techniques.
Through a very carefully screened and code-numbered introduction section that we call RSVP, you can, within a matter of a few days, meet other people who are, in a sense, at your own level, and away you go.
Classified personals were, until recently, almost entirely the domain of underground weeklies. Often they were sexually explicit. Now the personals are becoming a part of the media mainstream.
It is quite common in Europe, particularly England, France, Sweden, Germany, and so forth. In fact, Europeans don't understand why we are so reluctant to take charge of our own lives and get what we want when our society is not providing that.
The emerging popularity of personal classifieds has now reached a point where the major electronic media have begun to commit substantial resources to meeting the demand. And here, the personals have made their debut in mainstream broadcasting.
Hi there, I'm Jill, and I'm a magician. That's a lady magician. And if you haven't caught my act, well, you really should. I'm into horseback riding and roller skating, dancing, all sorts of things. And I'd like to give you an opportunity for a private showing. So why don't you drop me a line?
This is Singles Magazine. And more eligible singles. Here's our host, Paul Ryan.
Hi, welcome to Singles Magazine. I'm Paul Ryan, and I'm one of the 60 million single people living in America. Each week on Singles Magazine, we're going to talk about various lifestyles and some subject matter we can all relate to. But don't go anywhere, because we're coming right back with TV's hottest stars, Audrey and Judy Landers, right after this next RSVP.
Yeah, you know, you really got to know what you're doing to play one of these. Hi, I'm Ray, and I'm a builder from Malibu.
And I'm on the receiving line to all you eligible men out there. I love playing sports, acting, singing, dancing, and just doing anything fun and slightly dangerous.
I'm a registered nurse. In my off-free time, I enjoy such outdoor activities as horseback riding, hiking, swimming, country western music, and dancing.
If you'd care to spend some time, send a letter and your picture to Singles Magazine.
Send your picture to Don at Singles Magazine and meet the real wild man at Manhattan Beach.
In a moment, we'll tell you how to get in touch with Tyrone, Dr. Don, and all of our eligible singles. Get those pencils ready.
After Rick and I met, we used the Source electronic mail system, which was kind of like a court chef. And it was nice because we were both very busy, and it was a real convenience.
The ways people have found to meet are, it seems, limited only by the imagination. And so it's little surprise that meeting has met with the computer age. Avis and Rick are among those who have been brought together, in some cases bridging thousands of miles by microcircuitry.
This is like an electronic bulletin board, actually, and there are over 70 or so different categories. We're looking at the dating category right now, and we have some entries or some listings here on the screen of people all over the country that are looking to meet other people, or at least to communicate with them. People just put on an entry, and if you're interested in that person, you get in touch with them through electronic mail. Some people even leave their telephone number, actually, or a mailing address. The person here that just put in an entry, his message, his classified ad reads, "The super stud would like to hear from you, all ages, Pittsburgh."
It's a new way. In a lot of ways, it's faster than some of the old ways and easier to use.
We say that we had a high-tech courtship, high-technology courtship.
The compromise with this film is that I agreed to appear in a no-smoking film. But the real reason that I'm doing everything that I can to make it in show business is not for the sake of show business. I'm doing this because I need the exposure. Because, I don't know how to say this exactly, but I need to get married.
So the question is, how can I get a chance to meet these people who would otherwise be strangers? Well, you have the whole classified personal dating, video dating, et cetera, but typically they only reach about a couple of thousand people, or they have no visual component. I decided I wanted to advertise in the widest possible way, so I thought if I did a film, I would reach the largest number of people.
It's very difficult meeting people. The social process is very inefficient. And I said to myself, if I'm on the screen like a movie star, then the women in the audience will unconsciously compare me to whoever it was that they were thinking of possibly marrying. So, you know, I'm on the screen and the other guys are not. Okay.
Hi, here you go. This is my phone number. If you see the film, it's a matrimonial advertisement impersonating a no-smoking trailer. It's in there. It's my real phone number. Let me know what you think. If you like my face, show my face to your friends. If they like my face, have them call me. It's my real phone number. If they don't like my face, they don't have to call me. I'm 36, by the way. There are 60 million unmarried adults living in the United States today. Of that 60 million, there are about 10 million in my 18 to 35, 20 to 40 age category that I would consider potential eligible marriage partners. Of that 10 million, I'm allowing that there's got to be at least 100 women that are perfect for me, ideal soulmates for me. And all I want to do is meet one of that theoretical 100, and my search is over.
Very difficult meeting people. The social process is very inefficient.
I can certainly imagine putting myself in situations where I might meet people. And have been fairly lucky between job and friends lately that I do meet people. I would be very lonely without the group of friends that I have. And anyone who's observed my life at all would know that and see that. They're vital. I think there's enough that I want to do with my life besides meet people. I mean, I want to meet them as a consequence of things, but not as an activity. I'd rather go to a movie or go for a walk or play tennis or go see my mom, you know, or go to work. And through those activities, be a person who will have contact with other people. With each passing year that I didn't marry, I became a little more capable of being happier single by building up a network of friends who collectively provide much that I think a husband or wife provides singly. It sometimes seems like it would be a lot easier to have one person than it is to have many.
Miles.
We invite you tonight to join us following the 10 p.m. report for a live town meeting. Our focus is singles, and our panel will be ready to discuss some of the special freedoms and some of the particular problems that are part of the experience of being single today. We invite you at home to call us with your questions and your comments. If you live in the metropolitan area, phone 330-2404. Outstate, you may call collect 612-330-2688. Our operators are ready now to take your phone calls. A town meeting with answers to your questions about being single following tonight's 10 p.m. report.
Okay, now the guys should be all lined up. And should have your feet a little bit closer together.
Most singles want to get married. They either want to marry or to remarry. Being single will never replace marriage. It is not a substitute.
1, 2, 3, and 1.
For some, it may be an alternative lifestyle. But for 75% of the single people in this country, they look forward to being married. Being single, I liken it to kind of a way station. You're waiting, you're sampling, but in the future there is marriage. Look, we all want somebody. I mean, it's a normal, natural thing to share and want somebody.
To say that many, many more people will never marry at all, I think would be a gross miscalculation.
Singles who've been married once want to be married more than singles who've never been married. Singles who've been married twice want to remarry more than singles who've been married once.
Marriage seems to be the preferred status.
They kind of all gravitate to this. And I think one of the reasons for this is we are born being nurtured. And as we grow up and turn into adults, we want that nurturing again.
Some of the delaying marriage, the independent living that's taking place among the young adults of today, is going to be translated into greater marital stability in the future.
I think that it's understandable that we had a single lifestyle in the 1970s for social change and economic reasons. I think that for many people, it's come up empty. I think that we're ready to look for commitment. I think economically we pretty much have no choice but to start looking for it. I think it's something historians will say it was part of the mid-1970s, mid-20th century. It was part of the mid-20th century. It was a phenomenon, and it was encapsulated in a period of time.
The pendulum has swung over to here. It's going to lead us right back to here again, and that is where we're going to find out eventually that our greatest growth and our greatest joy, our greatest peace and our greatest happiness comes from dedicating ourselves in a responsible way to a relationship.
Sure is nice having an older sister who knows how to do everything. Oh. My sister is 8 years older than I am. She's married and has 4 children, 4 teenage boys, and has a much different life than I do. The children, I really don't know how I feel about that. I mean, I can see that it's obviously very nice for her and for them, and when I talk to her, when she talks about something one of the kids did or something that made her feel really good, that's a feeling I'd like to have. And I don't know if at this point, from this point on, I'd want to deal with that. I look at her home versus where I live. And while I'm very comfortable where I live, and for one person, it's about the right kind of space, and it's to my taste, and it's all of that. I'd love to have an attached garage and a washer and dryer in the basement. And I guess eventually I could have those things, even on my own, but a lot of it I don't see much need of on my own, but it would be nice to have those as part of that whole kind of settled, I guess I see more permanence in her life and a little more stability. I'm basically pretty happy with my life, and there are a lot of things I like about it. Marriage is not something that I would rule out, but it is something that I'm concerned about being difficult for anyone to accomplish, and I see it, for me, as becoming increasingly more difficult. And if you're going to be single, it's something that I think you can do happily. And as with anything else, I think if you're going to do it, you should do the best you can. And it isn't a dreaded or pitiful state, but there is a goal, and that goal being to connect uniquely with someone.
Distance makes miles seem like years. Silently while the grapevine hears. It's hard to say, don't disappear. When I feel I need you here. Far, far away, a face I see. See it today, away from me.
The preceding program has been brought to you in part by Northern States Power Company.